Hey everybody, this is your hopefully final unit that you will have to do online because of the coronavirus. I am super disappointed about this one, to be honest, because it is one of my favorites and it's a very impactful lesson. So we're going to talk about the war on drugs, the disparity that came from incarceration during the war on drugs, and the impact that incarceration has on the family. So this began in the 70s, but we're really talking mostly about the 1980s. Why isn't my slide changing? So despite us being the land of the free, the United States actually incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. Nearly 1 in 100 adults is behind bars during one point in their lives in the United States. Depending on your race, ethnicity, or your sex, you have a higher likelihood of being incarcerated. I would like to draw your attention, quite frankly, to the statistics right here. 1 in 9 men, however, 1 in 17 white men versus 1 in 3 black men and 1 in 6 Latino men. Also look at the differences in women as well compared to men. 1 in 9 men and 1 in 56 women. And you can go online and find lots of statistics about this. It's extremely alarming. So as you can see, we have spent a lot of money, over $15 billion proposed by the Obama administration in 1 year to fight the war on drugs that began in 1971 with President Nixon. Most people would say that we are failing at the war on drugs because there's still a huge drug problem in the United States, and we see every few years that there's one that becomes a bigger epidemic. So crack cocaine was one, heroin was one. Now we see that it's opiates. So in 1971 is when Nixon declared the war on drugs and said that they were public enemy number one, was his quote. The DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, was started in 1973. You've probably seen that on the back of jackets, like on the news and in police shows. Elvis Presley was actually the poster child for President Nixon and the war on drugs. Ironic, considering that he was actually a drug user himself. This right here is a link you should probably watch. It's pretty good. The other one's in here for sure, though, I want you to watch. So in 1984, Nancy Reagan began her Just Say No campaign, and then in 1986, the Anti-Drug Abuse Act kicked in, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. So this is Nancy Reagan. I grew up with the Just Say No campaign. A lot of you probably grew up with DARE. It's all the same thing about saying no to drugs. This is what I really want to drive home to you. The Anti-Drug Act Abuse, Drug Act Abuse of 1986, I think it's Drug Abuse Act, but anyway, this is where we started to see the conviction and incarceration of people at alarming rates, especially of certain races and ethnicities. So basically, there's no nicer way to say this. It was crack versus cocaine. Cocaine was the white person's drug, and crack was the more impoverished Black and Hispanic community drug. You had to have a lot of cocaine to be put behind bars compared to a very small amount of crack. So what we saw is the white people were not getting incarcerated for cocaine, but the Black people, African American, Hispanic people were getting incarcerated extremely heavy sentences for having crack. That led to this. So as you can see, during the 80s, jail is going to be a temporary housing community where you are awaiting trial or you're being held for a short period of time. Prison is when you've been convicted and you're being put away for quite a while. So as you can see, as we start the war on drugs, we have huge rates of people being imprisoned in the United States, and that continues to climb throughout the 90s and the 2000s. Lots and lots of people incarcerated. So prison versus jail. Down here is juvenile detention, so that's going to be kids that are incarcerated. This is looking at the number of children who have an incarcerated parent. If your parent is incarcerated, you are 7 times more likely to end up incarcerated yourself as an adult. It's a very alarming number. Looking at the kids again who have a parent behind bars. I want you to watch this video. It is very good, and review these statistics too. About half the children with incarcerated parents are under the age of 10. So think about kids that are 4th grade and under having their parents in jail, and the only thing that you know of your parents is going to visit them, going through security, having your visitations being monitored by guards, possibly being canceled because your parents' facility is on lockdown, etc. 2% of incarcerated fathers and 8 to 10% of mothers have children in foster care, Kids ends up living with the other parent that maybe they didn't know, living with grandparents, or going into the system. A lot of times they're living with grandparents though. 67%, this is all alarming as well, 67% of parents were handcuffed in front of their kids, and 27% had weapons actually drawn on them in front of their children. So not only are children seeing their parents being arrested, but they're seeing their parents maybe forcefully be taken down, or having a gun drawn on them. This causes children to have much higher rates of PTSD, other emotional problems, and troubles within school. Other problems with having a family member that's incarcerated is it's very expensive. It's very long travel for kids to go see their parents. Phone calls are very expensive. Putting money in the account for them to be able to buy things within the prison. The person that's incarcerated is not able to make a living to then help pay for their child. Extremely expensive. You can actually lose your parental rights depending on the amount of time you're incarcerated and what you're in for. And there's a lot of stigma and shame attached to people who have someone incarcerated in their family. Imagine being a parent and your 16-year-old murders someone, is incarcerated. Society can stigmatize you and punish you just as much as the prison system can as well. There's also really high rates of recidivism, which is going to be the likelihood of going back to prison after you've been released. You guys are going to look at some data for your 10-point assignment for this. You're going to review the stuff from the prison policy organization, lots of different good pie charts for that. All of these will be things that you'll review for that work you're going to do for me. I want to make sure you understand what ACEs is. We would talk about this a lot in class. You'll also watch a TED Talk on this for me and do the survey yourself. ACEs is Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it's a score of 1 to 10, basically looking at things that you've had happen to you as a child and how it impacts you as an adult. So this has been done numerous times, but the original study, this was the number of ACEs. The more ACEs that you have, the higher your score, the more likely you are to have some type of physiological conditions as an adult. More likely to commit suicide, more likely to be depressed, more likely to have heart disease, links to cancer, etc. You are assigned to watch this TED Talk, and you need to do it. This woman is phenomenal. The information she's going to share with you is very meaningful. The reason we talk about ACEs during this unit is because having an incarcerated relative is one of the scores on the ACEs thing. So have you been abused sexually, physically, emotionally? Do you have a parent that you had an alcohol problem? Suffered from mental illness? Another question on that survey, out of the 10 things you can have on your score, is having someone incarcerated in your family and the long-term impact that comes from this ACEs score. So watch her TED Talk. This is just showing you from the original study some of their findings. This is, if you have a higher score, the more likely you are to have any of these things. So this is your list of experiences you could have had and how that goes over into health problems and risky behavior, and then into long-term consequences from all of this, basically. So again, I'm going to drive this home for you once more. I want you to watch her TED Talk for sure, and I want you to watch this Children of the Incarcerated for sure, and then look at the documents that I have given you, and do that one-page reflection for me. And I think if we get back in the classroom ever, we're going to talk about this some more in person, because this is a big deal. All right, thanks guys.